We just heard from Standard & Poor's. When they dropped our credit rating, what they said is we don't have an ability to repay our debt. That's what the final word was from them. I was proved right in my position. We should not have raised the debt ceiling.
Whatever you may think of the decision Standard & Poor's made to downgrade our nation's credit rating, one thing that is clear about it is why they did it. This is not something you have to speculate on. This is not something we have to wonder about. This is not something we need Michelle Bachmann to interpret for us. These guys overtly, publicly explained why they did it. Quoting from S&P's press release about the downgrade, the political brinksmanship of recent months highlights what we see as America's governance and policymaking becoming less stable, less effective, and less predictable. The statutory debt ceiling and the threat of default have become political bargaining chips in the debate over fiscal policy. The following day, in case that wasn't clear enough, a top official from S&P did an interview in which he spelled it out even more starkly, telling the Wall Street Journal that S&P's conclusion to downgrade was pretty much motivated by all of the debate about raising of the debt ceiling. It involved a level of brinksmanship greater than what we had expected. In case that's still not clear enough, today S&P tripled down. A senior director from the firm telling Politico one of the reasons for the downgrade was that certain politicos, quote, expressed skepticism about the serious consequences of a credit default. An S&P executive saying, quote, that a country even has such voices, albeit a minority, is something notable. This kind of rhetoric is not common among AAA sovereigns. We do not have to speculate. It is not a mystery. It's not that, oh, there's a lot of blame to go around here. The credit rating of the United States was lowered because of these guys talking this way.
If a bondholder misses a payment for a day or two or 3 or 4, what more is more important that you're putting the government in a materially better position to be able to pay their bonds later on.
There's no question that sometime in August that some government contracts, some payments for things that the government's doing could be delayed. Standard & Poor's could call that a technical default.
Standard & Poor's says that kind of talk is why we got our national credit rating downgraded. S&P is not being shy about this. They want everybody to know this. Will that change Republicans' behavior? And does it strengthen Democrats' hand? Joining us now is Jeff List. He's a partner in the Democratic polling firm Anzalone Research. Jeff, thanks very much for coming in. It's nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
The reason I wanted to talk with you about this is that I feel like this is something that we need pollsters to understand. Republican politicians believe that intransigence, even to a dangerous extent, is what Republican voters want. The White House and Democrats think that what voters in general want is conciliation and compromise, a willingness to be reasonable and work things out. Are those two perceptions accurate?
I think they're accurate. I think that if you look at the country as a whole, you're going to get a misleading idea of what Republicans' behavior is going to be like in Congress. I had a hard time understanding what was going on in the debt ceiling debate as long as I was looking at polls that showed that only 20% of Americans supported the Republican approach and wanted to balance the budget only by cutting spending. But the truth is, but you've got a combination in the Republican caucus of extreme members who were elected on Tea Party craziness, who either don't know or don't understand the consequences of their action, but also members who watched all of their moderate colleagues lose in primaries in 2010, which is a memory that's very fresh in their minds. You know, they watched Castle lose in Delaware and Loudon in Nevada. And they know that it's a minority of a minority that's going to vote them out in their primaries. So you can't look at the polling among the general public and predict the behavior of Republicans in the House, which I think is unfortunate. But that said, I think that a lot of moderate voters who helped put the Republicans in power in 2010 didn't expect this, didn't want this, and are going to punish them for it in 2012.
On the Democratic side, I think anecdotally you see Democratic-leaning pundits and columnists and bloggers really encouraging a more confrontational, more fighting posture from the White House and from Democrats generally. Is that just sort of punditocracy, elite opinion, or do you see that reflected among Democratic voters and liberal voters more broadly?
I think that is reflected in the polls. I think that what the public wants is for Washington to work and for Washington to get results. The public understands that Obama is trying to work with Republicans and that they're not trying to work with him. I think that voters in general also want the president to take a little bit harder line against Congress.
Yeah. Jeff List, pollster for Democratic polling firm Anzalone List. This is the thing that I needed you to answer. You've really helped me understand it. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
9 out of 10 economists surveyed found that the severe stock market fluctuations this week can only be rectified by a cocktail moment. Don't worry, it's mere moments away. Remain calm.